Your local game guy, and today I'm joined by Will. Hey, Will.
Up.
Don't mind me. I'm going to pull up the back end of our stream here to make sure it's running for you all. I really hope it is. But if you were with us last night for our 5.5 hours FNM stream, well, thanks for joining us there. That was a fun time. If you are one of the many people that only watch our shorts and just happened upon this video and are asking me or telling me that Paradox Engine, a 5-cost do-nothing card, is better than the One Ring, then I implore you, please watch the last 3 games of our FNM. I don't want to spoil anything, but I do illustrate the One Ring in long combo turns that are more convoluted than having to untap things with Paradox Engine. I gotta say, draw being involved in that situation makes it more complex than Paradox Engine. Not to harp on the topic we covered last week, but again, I think I can safely say if Paradox Engine was unbanned, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I don't even know if I would add it in Oswald, outside of the fact that it's just a very easy way to do what I'm doing, as opposed to, and same thing with Arkham, right? Like,
Yeah,
it
you
would,
you run it in Arkham because you get it out as easily as you get out
it's
the One Ring, and then
right,
it untaps Arkham to do crazy stuff.
right. Oh, there it's great. And is Arkham sorcery speed? He's not sorcery speed.
Nope, he is
Yeah.
not
So
sorcery speed.
so even better there, but I think it just puts more of a target on those decks. Like, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously Thrasios would be happy, but Thrasios already had Seedborn Muse, and even that strategy is kind of eh. But I mean, it's not on the cast. But the thing is, you need an outlet, or you need a payoff for Paradox Engine to do well. Also, you need a sufficient amount, enough dorks or fast mana or rocks to even get the ball rolling on that. So I can't even, I don't know. The One Ring doesn't require anything. You just draw cards, and then obviously shoot for your utilities that manipulate it well. But yeah, I do want to say though, it's funny, we've played the One Ring on the channel a lot, a whole lot. And yesterday I did goof with the effect. No one caught it. I didn't even catch myself. But
I was just like, have I been playing this wrong? I must be playing this wrong.
I read
Or I must have been playing it wrong.
I read it and I'm like, oh, I should double down on these burden counters. Like, there are other cards in the game where you can abuse them like this, but because of the colon and where the cost is and where the effect is. In fact, you cannot double down on the amount of draw you get from the One Ring by untapping it and placing another burden counter on it. So I was netting, spoiler alert, I was netting an additional card per tap in some games. But it's weird to say that it was largely irrelevant because at the end of the day, I was still drawing like 20 plus cards a turn.
That was the funny thing, because before the stream, you told me, like, yeah, I messed it up, and I was drawing like an additional 6 to 8 cards a game, and I just broke down laughing because I'm like, I don't know what's funnier. The fact that you're trivializing drawing 6 to 8 cards, like an entire extra hand each game, or the fact that you're right that it really didn't matter.
Yeah, it oddly it just didn't, because I had all the solutions anyways. Really, it was like a handful of lands and like maybe one more silence or one more effect that could be seemingly useful. Again, not to trivialize it, but that did happen, and you should watch the games, please. I implore you. If you want to see, or at least acknowledge the fact that the One Ring can be really potent in the right hands. I'm not speaking of myself. I'm speaking of these commanders. I'll encourage you to watch our video on commanders that manipulate the One Ring well. And obviously, if there's a new one that comes out, like if there's another birthing pod commander for artifacts that's like in more colors, I feel like it just gets more twisted. I don't know. Like, I'm excited to see that. What's also cool is, do you run like Shrinic Resonator or any sort of doubling effects in your Arkham list so that you can get like the One Ring and an untapped utility or something?
No, because the way Arkham works is sacking the thing's not an additional cost. It's not an additional cost. It's part of the resolution of the thing. You destroy the permanent. So I'd have to have 2 things to destroy.
That's right. Okay.
Also, going to what you were saying a little bit before, just to kind of build on that, if you watched the gameplay live stream last night, excluding Patrick's deck that would obviously want to play Paradox Engine, if anyone else played Paradox Engine in pretty much any of those games, it was basically a Burgie. Like, it was cast a spell, get a colored mana for the most part for most players, or get like a lot of generic, but then no colored mana.
Mm-hmm.
So those games that we were playing last night, I don't think people would like having Paradox Engine in play or drawing their Paradox Engine. I think they'd still probably play Paradox Engine, but it would have been bad in most of those games. It would have been really good for Patrick because he had a bunch of rocks in play and untapped things in play, but that's because Patrick's deck is built for artifacts.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we've got rose tinted lenses on when it comes to Paradox Engine. This is my last thought on this card. I don't think people realize that it's a 5 cost do nothing in a lot of situations. Like, if you're just slamming it, like ham slamming it, if you don't have a draw utility on hand, or you don't have enough, like, actual dorks or rocks to untap, because that's what realistically you're looking at, you're not doing much with the card. You're really not doing much with the card. It also doesn't have its own protection. Like, one of the things that makes the One Ring so good is the fact that a majority of removal won't deal with it. So, like, all your destruction spells don't get beyond the indestructible. You will need to use a bouncer. You will need to use exile to get rid of it, and ideally exile. So, yeah.
It's the way that I phrased it in a comment that I put that's basically a thesis. So sorry to anyone who read that. The One Ring's floor is draw a lot of cards. Paradox Engine's floor is kind of do nothing. Whereas the One Ring and Paradox Engine ceiling is storm off, win the game. Paradox Engine will hit its ceiling way easier than the One Ring does, but the One Ring, if you don't have any kind of setup, is just better than Paradox Engine. Because you need those mana rocks for Paradox Engine to be good, and you need mana rocks that make a lot of mana, and mana rocks that make a lot of colored mana. And right now people are only running like 10 mana rocks in the game, which means that you need to hit like 2 to 3 of those cards, and you're only running 10 in your deck. You're not hitting them.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I feel like maybe and so does the Adnos player want it? Like, it helps with the storm, but it's like a 5. It's 5 life off the top. I don't know. Like, I feel like the biggest offender when it was legal was Urza, from my recollection, and I know Savala liked it. There's obviously a couple lists.
Yeah, there's a pretty much every list ran Paradox Engine when it was legal, but it was a dead card in a lot of situations. Decks just ran it for those games when they hit their mana.
Mm-hmm.
Funnily enough, Paradox Engine makes green viable again. I want Paradox Engine unbanned. All
Yeah,
those dorks become so much better.
I don't mind. I feel like even green list are off dorks now, just because it's almost exclusively better to run fast mana over dorks. And because in all this, in like one of our last games at FNM, one of our players, George, he had an opportunity to shoot for a collector oof, and I coerced him to get Dockside. And it's funny he runs both those cards in the same list, because in most instances, the same lists that want collector oof are still going to be wanting Dockside, and everyone's playing for Dockside. And although collector oof is really good, no one wants to see it on the board. So you're going to get hated out very quickly when you play that card. It also stifles, in a lot of cases, your own game plan. So it's like, it's tricky that there's a solution for like the Dockside problem, yet no one wants to run that solution. Or even when it's an option, it's secondary to what everyone else is abusing, which is Dockside.
Yeah.
It was so funny to see that. I am so glad I coerced him to do that, because if he did get collector oof, it would have been a slower game, but it would have really stunted my play from then on out. You know what I mean? It arguably might have been the better play, but he would have been hated out so much quicker.
The funny thing is, if Collector Roof came out, I think the Gale deck probably would have had the win.
Oh, 100%, because we wouldn't have had anything for the Omniscience Storm. I thought he was...
The 1,000-Year Storm, yeah.
No, he was on Omniscience, he said.
Oh!
Yeah. So... which I like. He's like, I kept suggesting that his Reality Scramble was going to hit a
1,000-year.
Right. And he was like, after we played, he's like, actually, I'm on Omniscience. And I'm like, oh, okay. So basically, though, when you do Omniscience, it lets you cast spells for free, if I'm not mistaken, to include the spell.
Anything from your hand for free.
Right. So Gale would not be able to do the spells from his graveyard for free.
Correct.
Right. So you do need to refresh your hand. And I think he had just... Someone else had Jessica as well. I forget. He had plays, though. So it's not like... I
Just
don't know.
cast an instant from hand for free, cast Gataxian Probe from graveyard for 2 life, then cast something else, cast something else, cast something else, and you just keep going, like, play the things that you played for free from your graveyard for, like, 1 mana to keep going.
I wonder if there's a world where you run both Thousand Year Storm and the Omniscience.
I think Thousand Year Storm is just better in my opinion, because it
Yeah.
it does functionally the same thing as Omniscience, because if you have a twiddle effect, you can untap all lands you control or one land like 30 times. So it's like you have unlimited mana if you have Thousand Year Storm.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I loved seeing that strategy played for though, because he was rushing it out and he had an opportunity to win there very early. So it was nice seeing that Izzet can be powered that way.
Yeah,
Multi Scuff says Tazri wants Paradox Engine. I
yeah,
bet.
all three Tazris would be fantastic with Paradox
I
Engine.
bet. But hi guys, thank you for joining us on this Untapped. We're still in the show before the show territory. Everything looks and sounds good. You can hear my guests. You can hear me. All right, my guests. You can hear Will. Yeah, yesterday.
Co-host.
Yes, yesterday we had a lot of guests. So yeah, if you didn't join us for F&M yesterday, again we had Charles on. He's known as the mono white guy, but who's really the mono white guy? You tell me,
It's
people.
Charles. It's Charles.
It's funny.
He's built like 18 CDH mono white decks, something crazy like that. He's built a
Yeah,
ton.
I bet. I've built a little bit of everything. I kind of consider myself just a mono player in general. Just a generalist in that sense because again, early on I built a lot of monocolored decks. Not all of them passed the test, but so far as white is concerned, it was always Teshar, Balan, and now Oswald for me, and almost exclusively Oswald because it's just the best in mono white. Fight me.
It's so enjoyable for you, and I'm happy
Yeah,
that you like it.
I do. I love it. I don't know if Charles would agree, but
Well,
the,
he was singing the praises of Oswald in the stream. Like he before he hopped off, he was saying on stream like Oswald is one of those good mono white decks to kind of teach players how to utilize value and how to play through their deck and their lines cleanly because you
yeah.
have a tutor commander in the command zone, a very early setup that you always go for, so it's not terribly complicated. And you're going to get a bunch of draw, meaning that you'll see every card in your deck multiple times over, uh, and you'll know how to use them in a bunch of different scenarios. So Oswald is a really good like teaching deck, in addition to just being a very good deck.
Yeah, no, I can agree on that. I feel like it's definitely something that you're going to have to take a while to learn the play lines for. The game plan has changed a lot since the One Ring was printed. Like, I'm not used to manipulating some of the cards that are in the list now, and it has changed my mindset on the cards that can be included. I think I averaged out the One Ring on turn 2 most games. So when you do that, it really does shape what your potential plays are from then on out. Just having a flush hand, which is kind of uncommon for white. So it's changed my mindset on the game quite a bit, and obviously it's made it really fun. The one thing that people don't shoot for, which I think they should shoot for more often, and I say this to my detriment, is culling the week, like culling ritual. Excuse me. Culling Ritual just destroys Oswald. And like that Kenrith list when we were playing, I really thought Schmaz, I believe it was Schmaz on Kenrith, I thought he was going to go for a Culling Ritual. Like easily with any one of those tutors. I'm like, he's just going to nuke the board, get a lot of mana, do his thing. But fortunately, like the greed and power of Dockside was enough to sway any man. But Culling Ritual is honestly Dockside's biggest weakness, unless you have something that makes your stuff indestructible, which there are only so many cards that are worth playing in white that do that. But yeah, Culling Ritual is a pain, man.
I would say the only weakness of Calling Ritual is that people don't want to be playing green. Like that's the only reason why people aren't
Mhm.
playing it right now. Green just isn't in the best position that it could be right now.
Yeah,
Um,
if you're consequently in the colors for this though, you should run Culling Ritual. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say Culling Ritual is a Golgari staple. It is up there with Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy. You should play Culling Ritual in every list that you have access to these two colors. It is one of the best ramp spells in the game, and you don't even need the green, mind you, right? So you can add black or green in this instance for each permanent destroyed this way, bearing in mind it destroys your own things. But if you're trying to reanimate your own Dockside for even more gross amounts of mana, it does that for you, coupled with the fact that you're destroying most all stacks that comes out early. and destroying a lot of boards for players that are playing lists like me, where you have a low CMC commander that you can pilot very early productively. If I get the One Ring out before this, I guess I don't feel as bad, but it's grossly effective.
I will also say that Culling Ritual can do some interesting combo stuff because for ults, this is not a thing that you go for off the bat, but this is something you can go for. In old Stick Fingers, when I was initially running the Razakath Young Necromancer and what is it called? The Chain of Smog creature.
Yeah.
What not Apprentice Necromancer.
No, it's a
Witherbloom Apprentice.
Witherbloom.
Witherbloom Apprentice.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah. Uh when I went for Razaketh with the two apprentices, one of the combos I ran was Chatterstorm with Culling Ritual. Because you make a 1/1 for everything that you cast this game, and then you destroy all of them to make a ton of mana. Then you get Elixir of Immortality out, shuffle both of them back in, retutor them with Razaketh and gain 5 life, recast both of them, and then shuffle it back in.
Not bad.
Yeah, it was good. Like it, and you since you're playing your deck multiple times over, you easily get there.
Oh my gosh.
So that's a notable thing. If you run Chatterstorm in the deck for whatever reason, you have a weird combo.
Oh, we're on Hoarding Broodlord now, sir.
Indeed, indeed. You can
Yeah.
storm off to get all of those 1/1s for Hoarding Broodlord.
Yeah. Or oh my gosh. Or it's just better yet, just play Orcish Bowmaster, right? Like we have Orcish Bowmaster lines that work really well with Razakath as well.
Yeah, sadly, you only get the one token for Culling Ritual, so you
Mhm.
can't go like wide with the tokens and get a bunch of mana.
This is interesting. What does I like this question from the audience, LP? So sorry, we're still in the show before the show. We're going to start soon, I promise. But what does green need? Is Legolas's? Okay, sorry. What is the new Legolas card? But the question is, what does green need the most to be an effective color again? Well, it's interesting because everything green gets, just by virtue of how certain partner pairings work, you just have access to all of those green cards. But what does green need to be good again? I think Charles referenced something that green might need the other day. But right now,
Interaction,
it does
pretty
need
much.
it does need more. It does need more interaction, but I feel like what it's
That's the shorthand version of what Charles said. That's he went into way more detail and he gave a more thorough analysis of why green is weak, but it's the fact that green can't interact too well is part of the problem.
I feel like it has a fair bit of interaction. Obviously, like Veil of Summer isn't the biggest issue in the world, but it's getting more and more utilities that are reactive and nice, but not necessarily. I feel like its pain points are the fact that it doesn't have good closers. Like I don't like shooting
That's
for Craterhoof
what
Behemoth.
I think.
Right, like because all the other colors have really good resources at their disposal. Like black has obviously a whole host of great reanimate creatures, Adnos, Peta, Necropotence, like things to just fill your hand flush with cards, right? Like these really great enablers. Red has Underworld Breach, so you have your grave accessible at any point in time, and then pair that with LED and or a wheel effect, and you're off to the races, right? We also have things like Pneumonic Betrayal that splash into those colors that works really well. But white has good reanimate spells that also functionally work in a lot of these same combos. Like Sabine's Reclamation's a boon for a lot of lists, but white by itself has amazing protection spells like Grand Abolisher, Ranger Captain of Eos, all the silences. These are things that are supplemental. I wouldn't say that any of those things helps you navigate for a win, like in a vacuum, but they are complementary to a lot of game plans. And then blue is blue, and blue has all the easy win the game spells. Where I can point at green and say, well, there's a lot of good buff spells. There are some good protective spells, but elsewise, it's kind of not doing enough for the most part.
Yeah,
It doesn't
yeah.
have the
Because
best. Oh,
if you
sorry.
look at casual, casual's game plan for green is ramp really hard, play big things, win the game. In CDH, play big things is a lot harder to pile into a win. So it's like, okay, well, if you can't play big things, what do you play into? And it's like, well, Protean Hulk was a thing for a while, but Protean Hulk got a lot worse with Flash being banned, and we still don't have like a really good sack commander for Protean Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then outside of that, Craterhoof Behemoth isn't that great because the game needs to be a little bit faster, and you're only going to have like 4 creatures on board with Protean Hulk, which is not enough to close. So there's just a million reasons why green has kind of come up short, and I feel like there's a one card that we've discussed a lot off stream, Patrick, that might
Mm.
make green a good deal better. You know what I'm talking about, the thing that you nearly spoiled at the end of last stream by talking about Beseech the Mirror. But
Yeah.
I feel like that card can help green a bit, and when that card is able to be talked about, we are going to be talking up a storm about that, and I hope you guys enjoy that card. In
Yeah,
addition,
we're gonna
I
enjoy it.
think yeah, I think green might have a. I don't know if this is gonna save green, but this is at least nice for green, and it's something from the new Ixalan set that was spoiled yesterday.
Oh, so yeah, we definitely look at that, and we can definitely look at just like this is quick reflexes. I don't know if this is a new staple, but if you haven't seen this yet, this is a new card. It's a green instant speed, split second, untap target creature, your orc army. Until end of turn, it gains hexproof reach, and whenever this creature becomes tapped, it deals damage equal to its power up to one target creature. So basically, you could use this to like nuke any commander or any problematic creature, provided your creature has an ability to make it tap itself. That's even better. Like this just does so much, but it's a really cool piece of interaction. Like it's a good way to not only like reach, block a Crom and destroy it pending the creature you're hitting, but giving it hexproof too. It's covering your bases in a lot of ways, and then pair that with split second at 1 CMC is kind of insane. But I think we
Yeah.
can officially start here. So we've got a few talking points that I want to cover today. Let me get back to where we were. There we go. But hey, welcome to Untapped, the TCG Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Marlette. That's Will. Hey, Will.
Sup?
Thank you for joining us on this Saturday morning. We do this every Saturday at roughly 10 a.m. If you've watched the shorts, thank you for joining us today. We do this live, and part of that experience is to get your input on everything we're talking about. So periodically through our talking points, we're going to go ahead and just defer to the audience, and we can chat with each other. That's the whole idea, guys. So feel free to talk it up in the comments if you guys want to talk amongst yourselves or talk with us. I will try to keep my eyes on those. So if you haven't participated in our community post, there are talking points that come up there called Real Talk. And those are things we feature on the podcast as part of our mailbag item. So if you ever want to participate in any of the conversations indirectly, that's a good way to do so. So subscribe to the channel. You can find community posts show up in your homepage, or if you go to our actual page, you could just click on it. Generally, people see it on their homepage. No one is really clicking on anyone's active like channel page these days. But we've got 3 talking points to cover. Is Beseech the Mirror a new Staple Tutor? And not just in black. Is Beseech the Mirror a new Staple Tutor? That's our first talking point. That was our mailbag item. We want to discuss some of the new Ixalan cards with you guys. So if you haven't seen the spoils, yes, Ian Malcolm is in the world of Magic the Gathering. And then obviously we have our main talking point, which is the thumbnail for this video, which is why should you always run Soul Ring? You know, there was a whole host of videos recently that kind of got popularized in recent date. We sort of talk in circles within the MTG community, but it was a talking point on why you shouldn't run Soul Ring. And again, that's been a topic that's been up for debate for some time now. But we want to give you all the reasons why you should run Soul Ring and why it's a practical and very good card. But Will, any other thoughts before we jump into this one?
I'm excited to talk about a lot of the things that popped up from yesterday's convention. I'm looking forward to
Oh my
talking about some of
gosh.
the things from Ixalan. There's a lot of cool stuff.
Thank you, Jason, for the subscription. Yeah, so this is interesting. I should probably move that subscription box if my face is going to be down there. Let me do that really quick. Say this show before the show territory. Alert box. Is that it? Yeah, we'll do that. We'll move this over here. So, Beseech the Mirror. If you haven't seen the poll, neither have I seen its result. I've got the poll ongoing. You guys can see it. Oh gosh, It's right here. So real talk, is Beseech the Mirror a new Staple Tutor in Commander? We got over 57 comments and over 4,000 votes on this. I don't know where it's at. I don't know if Will's been tracking it, but to very quickly go over what Beseech the Mirror is, if you haven't been following our Wilds of Eldraine coverage, we didn't really talk on this one too much, but it's good. It's showing up in a lot of CDH lists, and here's why. It's a generic and triple black has Bargain, which means that you can sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or token additionally as you cast this spell. So search your library for a card, exile it face down, then shuffle. If this spell was bargained, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost, provided the spell is a mana value 4 or less. Put the exiled card into your hand if it wasn't cast this way. So at worst, it's a really bad tutor, right? At best, you are essentially playing Beseech the Mirror to get your one ring all in one fell swoop, and all it really took was you having to sacrifice a token in the aftermath of this spell. It is sorcery speed, it is triple black. I know Crick players like it. Will, what are your thoughts?
I think that it's a really good card because in most decks, Bargain means nothing. It's not hard to get out.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you're running rituals and fast mana and things like that, making black is the easiest color to make in all of Magic the Gathering. So you don't have to worry about paying triple black for this. It's functionally triple generic. I know that that's over exaggerating by a lot, but functionally it's triple generic and another generic.
The ones that come to mind are Cabal Ritual, Dark Ritual. You also have the Sacrifice, Burnt Offering.
Yeah. Sacrifice, Burnt Offering, Rain of Filth. And there's a couple other ones that I'm.
The Muck, Bubbling Muck is a good way to get the double black. But yeah, that people don't often run that one. But there's plenty of ways that you would actually manipulate.
But Beseech the Mirror is really good because it can get anything that costs 4 onto the stack for you, and weirdly enough, it casts the card from exile, which is sometimes very good for you if you're running exile synergy stuff like
Ob Nixilis Kingpin, or Prosper, exactly.
Then if you're casting anything from exile, you're happy with a little bit of synergy there.
You know, I didn't even think of that. Like, it's funny to think that, because I don't really, you think of red normally when you see the exile cast from exile stuff.
Yeah.
But this is doing that too.
And also, there's a lot of things that are 4 mana kind of win the game cards in CEDH. For instance, with this, you can get any of your polymorph effects, including Reality Scramble, to turn some other non-creature thing into a combo. There's also just like a lot of good effects on 3 that you can find, because you can hit your Necropotence, and then that's basically paying 1 more generic for Necropotence and sacrificing something.
Which doesn't feel bad, because you're not only finding it from your deck, you're getting to cast it. And then like there's the triple black right there, right? You're effectively getting to use it that way.
So there's just so many things that Beseech the Mirror hits that is really good, to the point where this is not better than Demonic Tutor. But if you want to compare it to Demonic Tutor, if you're hitting Necropotence, you're sacrificing a creature and paying a generic for Necropotence. Mm-hmm. Whereas with Demonic Tutor, you're paying 1 and a black for Necropotence. Or you're paying 1 and a black for the Tutor for Necropotence, whereas this, you're paying the generic and a sack for Necropotence. So it's basically sacking a permanent to save a mana, which isn't too bad.
Okay, I'm going to start a poll. Which is better? Is it Beseech the Mirror? Is it Demonic Tutor?
It's Demonic Tutor.
Or is it Vampiric Tutor? Because people like comparing those two. You know what's funny? I honestly think that in a lot of cases, this can be better than Demonic Tutor. And only because, like you were saying, if your deck is providing a lot of tokens and your opponents they're not privy to what you're grabbing here. So, you know, the question of whether to counter it or not is, you have 2 options, right? You wait for the spell to be put on the stack. You wait for the tutor to be put on the stack. It could be any number of things. So there's 2 pain points for you here. You can also not have the bargain, but practically speaking, you're probably always going to have the bargain. But yeah, you're effectively paying 4 to generate 8 mana's worth of spell, right? From your Beseech the Mirror, right? Putting it directly into play after the cast. I kind of like this card quite a bit. Obviously, DT is still kind of like the king of just doing it. Yeah. Right. But yeah, it's funny when you put it that way. Like, the math checks out. Like, you're effectively getting more out of your CMC for Beseech the Mirror if you're able to do the thing, and the card you're playing for is in the 3 to 4 CMC range. But then DT, for the most part, by and large, is probably better, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts as to which you would honestly prefer. And so far as our last poll was concerned, the audience says always play the Soul Ring, 83%. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I like Beseech the Mirror a lot. I think it is a new staple tutor. I think that you should be running Beseech the Mirror in any list that can manipulate it. It is just, we don't often see, if prices say anything, obviously this card is being used in a whole lot of other formats right now. And obviously having 4 copies of Beseech the Mirror is like having 4 copies of the One Ring. And I know a lot of people are manipulating it for that purpose. It's kind of gross. Also, do bear in mind, you are casting the spell. So you are getting to cast the One Ring to get the protection, which is really good in a 1v1 format. In Commander, maybe not so much. People can win at instant speed in a lot of instances, so they can just wait for the protection to go away. But yeah, I definitely think that this is a staple tutor. There's no reason you shouldn't be playing this in Commander. Even Mono Black wants it. If Mono Black wants it, then I think every other color should want it.
I mean, if Mono Black wants it, that may also just be because Black needs good tutors. Mono Black wants Grim Tutor.
That's true. I mean, well, Crick doesn't care about these pips. I think that, ad nauseum might feel bad for hitting this, but again, it's going to find the thing you missed from your ad nause and put it on the battlefield for you. So I don't feel so bad. Like if you get, you just need the Brain Freeze, you can find the Brain Freeze. You just need the Underworld Breach, you find the Underworld Breach. You just need the LED to dump your hand to play into Underworld Breach. You find all of these solutions for the same combo lines we've been seeing for years. So I think it eases play lines so much in the list that want it. I'm thinking...
what Beseech the Mirror hits? It hits your culling ritual.
It does hit your culling ritual. Which I absolutely hate. So yeah, I think this card is only going to get progressively better too. Like the more we see strong 4CMC spells printed, because this is hits any spell, the better it gets. The only thing that could make this instantly better is if it was instant speed. If this was instant speed, I think if this was instant speed, if Beseech the Mirror was instant speed, is it better than Demonic Tutor?
I might say that it is because it breaks spell speed.
Right, because
you cast whatever off of this without caring about spell speed.
Correct. So it would be better if it was instant, is what you're saying.
Yes, I think that this would be better Demonic Tutor if it was an instant. But
so you're saying if you cracked an Emergence Zone, you would rather have Beseech the Mirror in hand?
Well, kind of. Well, if you crack an Emergence Zone, you're breaking spell speed automatically.
Right. But in a world
if you have Quicken, okay, I'd rather have Beseech the Mirror.
Okay, but in a world where both were instant speed, Beseech the Mirror is better.
And Demonic Tutor? Yeah. I'd still say that's better because whatever you search is also now an instant.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. So like your Born Upon a Wind resolves. I would rather have Beseech the Mirror. I mean, obviously...
Born Upon a Wind hits everything as well. It's specifically Quicken.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. So we've got the poll up here. I'll vote. Yes, I'm going to say run this in all your black decks. And 84% of you agree. I did specifically state Commander, but a lot of the audience, like, if you play other formats, always feel free to talk on other formats. But yeah, let's chat about it. So... Dylan Payne, we're just going to go down the list here. We might not hit every comment, but that's okay. I've been testing this in TIAM. Don't have too many reps, but it's really good when it works. Killing off your Orc army or small rock to get mana value, a mana engine, or combo going is really nice. The main downsides I've run into are you spend a lot of mana and hard minus if an opponent holds a counter for the search. If you can't bargain, it's a worse Diabolic Tutor. Yeah, those are facts. I agree with all those statements. I'm interested to see this operated in TIAM. I feel like it's probably just a good enabler for any list. It's honestly like the third best tutor in Commander. Maybe fourth or even fifth. If we count non-black options like Enlightened Tutor, Finale of Devastation, or more, I think this is above. Finale of... Look, mind you, the Finale of Devastation is a finisher for a lot of lists, so I do realize there's that aspect of the card, but I don't know. I feel like for a majority of the strategies that a lot of these lists are playing for, I think that Beseech the Mirror hits Well, obviously hits more targets than both of those two cards combined. I still think it's the third best in all colors. And I'm assuming the first and second best are Vamp and Demonic Tutor for you. But Imperial, this is Imperial Lagron. It's going to be an absolute all-star in 60 card formats, already is. Yeah. Basically having 4 extra shielders or the 1 rings, like I was mentioning earlier. Yeah. Seems like an insane card in Crick. Yep. Says Mito. Besiege is just cheaper. Says Stormtrooper. Do you use that in quotes to say it's you mean cheaper in the sense that you're doing dirty things, or do you mean cheaper in the sense that it's like
you mean cheaper mana value, cheaper dirty things, or cheaper money wise?
Right. Well, it's not cheaper money wise than DT.
Yeah, it is.
Is it?
Beseech the Queen is significantly cheaper than Beseech the Mirror.
No. Beseech is just cheaper. I think Beseech Stormtrooper is referring to Beseech the Mirror here.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm so used to Beseech being Beseech the Queen.
I know. To see him, it's like 2/2/2 or black, right, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a good card. I'd use it when it needs to find something I'm building around in a deck that is 2 colors at most. So no Grixis, no 4 color, no 5 color soup. You're not going to use this tutor, says Ryder Bluck. In general, I don't play tutors because I need to curb my degeneracy for my play group somehow. Okay. And I prefer to do it in deck building.
More for casual, yeah.
That makes sense.
High power casual.
Well, that's my question to you guys then. Do you play casually? And if so, would you run Beseech the Mirror? Do you feel like this is giving you an unfair advantage over your opponents? Just being able to find and play a spell out like that in a casual setting. Do you think that's a broken tutor in casual, Will?
I just don't like running tutors in casual in general.
Okay. So any tutor would be broken.
Yeah, any tutor except for like the bad 4-cost tutors. That's pretty much my limit. If I'm running the better tutors in casual, I'm trying way too hard, or my decks are just not fun to play against.
That's interesting. Yeah, I could see where tutors kind of disrupt the casual experience. I get that. This is super strong in Crick. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Drage Suya Tamiki. Oxygen 1004. Pulled 1 and put it into my Nixia deck. Lets me play 4-drop and put an enchantment in the yard in one and to turn it into a 3/3. Yeah, that's amazing. That's actually in an Nixia, it's actually quite good. It's like a nice 1-2 punch with that specific list. And Stormtrooper was referring to a cost money. All right. I think it's kind of dangerous to run in your deck unless you're making tokens. It will more often be Diabolic Tutor, and sometimes you'll get blown out after sacking a piece, so sacking a token is best. Right. We were almost extensively looking at the bargain for, token sacking. You don't really want to get rid of your heuristic study for this. Or one of your artifacts. But like if it's a Felwar stone, I guess it's not the end of the world. But yeah, I agree. It could be a trap in that sense. But even still, like what you're getting should more than make up for it. I hope, even if it's not an orc army, which I think is what everyone's thinking with the current meta, because everyone just has access to that token. I still think it's pretty solid, even if you have to get rid of one of your mana rocks. I think it's, let's see here. Orfeo says tutors with restrictions are nice, especially the more different from each other they are, because the restriction both prevents over-searching as bad, and it creates scenarios where a misremembered card can put someone in a situation to get creative with their tutors when they F2F their first choice, fail to find. Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, it's nice that you have a good range of options. Buen says, I think in casual it provides fun options such as delayed blast fireball. Yeah. But as mentioned, broad tutors kind of aren't casual inherently unless a deck is built in a certain way. That's interesting. It's another thing that Beseech the Mirror finds, and I guess we haven't talked about it, are effects that have suspend. And you can really manipulate this in a way that cheats around really high suspend spells that effectively feels like cheating. I don't know. What's the best suspend spell to hit with Beseech the Mirror, Will? Go.
Probably Gaia's Will? Something like that. It's Yawgmoth's Will, but it's green suspend.
You'd say this one's the best. So it's suspend 4. So it's within the region of practical casting for if that was converted to CMC. But until end of turn, you may play lands and cast spells from your graveyard. If a card would be put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn, exile that card instead. So in case you're wondering, there is no mana value associated with these cards, but in the situations where a card doesn't have a mana value dictated, for all intents and purposes, it would be considered 0, right? So you can still find this with Beseech the Mirror and play this. But yeah, what is your suspend spell of choice for Beseech the Mirror? I understand it is played in other formats for that, so I'd like to hear what's your dream card? What would you hit in a commander setting that you think would be broken? You say Gaia's Will?
Yeah, I think Gaia's Will, just because it lets you... There's not a lot of great suspend cards that you'd want to hit, because it's like, oh, well, what's the best suspend card to cheat out? Profane Tutor. So I'm going to tutor for Demonic Tutor.
I'm thinking, or you can get your, isn't there a suspend Soul Ring? Yeah, what's it called?
Yeah, there's Soul Talisman, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting. Just to make it playable. Just make it playable, Lord, please. Soul Talisman was so cute. I feel like, I know, CDH is considered like a turn 3 format. It's all Commander, mind you. It's all Commander. So, I mean, technically a turn 1 Soul Talisman and all the games we played yesterday would have gone off. Well, except for maybe one. Watch FNM if you haven't watched FNM. But yeah, what do we have here? Beseech feels slightly more situational than the other tutors, but if your deck has something with multiple colors, it feels like a better card. I would run this in something like Chatterfang, where you always have access to tokens, says Propaganda. I agree. I agree with you. And it's interesting because we did have a commenter that stated it feels worse in multiple colors, but I honestly feel like it's better 3 and up. And so this is interesting. And we have another comment from Justin Huber that says definitely a staple 3 color or less. So they definitely raised the bar a little bit there. Will, what are your thoughts? Do you agree with this? Like Beseech the Mirror, is it worse in decks with less colors, or
I think it's better the more colors you have, if I'm being completely honest, because this fixes your pips. So if you have, like, I don't know, if you have Yidris in your 99, let's say, you can cheat out Yidris for 3 black and 1, and black is the easiest color for your deck to make outside of maybe red if you're running black and red for things. Because it's like, red makes red well, black makes black well, green makes green well. People like the black rituals most out of all of those. Mm-hmm. So black is the easiest color for you to make in most scenarios.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That's interesting. I don't know if are you using Idris in the 99 now? Is this your secret commander?
No. That's just my example. But it's if you're hitting a 2-color thing, I think it can be better. Like if you're hitting your Culling Ritual or if you're hitting your Notion Thief, it's usually better to just pay like a little bit of extra black, because you're probably going to have a lot of extra black. I will say it finds your Displacer Kitten, which is pretty crazy.
Oh my god, but it wouldn't find a Paradox Engine.
It would not find a Paradox Engine.
How do you feel about that, audience? Onzi Clantern says this card tickles my pickle for Prosper. That's the last comment I'll read. Yeah, I agree. I think Beseech the Mirror is a new staple. I kind of agree with some comments, like feeling that it's not worth $33. I would say that the only reason that you're finding singles for $33 is the fact that it's used in all the other formats. So
it's specifically Vintage and Legacy, because for those who don't know, the new sick combo in those formats is play a lot of 0-cost artifacts, ramp really quickly, Beseech the Mirror, casting Beseech the Mirror, casting Beseech the Mirror, casting Beseech the Mirror, sacrificing all those artifact creatures, casting Yawgmoth's Will. Then you recast all those artifact creatures from your graveyard, recast Beseech the Mirror, and then you cast Tendrils of Agony for like 30 damage, and then you win the game.
Not bad.
That's a turn 1 win in a lot of scenarios.
Buen says their ideal suspend card would be Restore Balance.
It's what is that? That's balance. That's just the card balance. Yeah, that's very fun.
So as a suspend card of choice because I'm obsessed with the card, and I'm not because it's good in the slightest. But basically, if you've I think balance is banned, right?
Yeah, balance is banned. I will say, if you're playing an Orzhov deck and your turn 1 is like, land, fast mana, fast mana, some other thing that you can play, Beseech the Queen, sacrificing like a piece of fast mana or like one of the random things that you played into restore balance. Everyone discards down to 0 cards, and then you're the only person with mana on the field.
Yeah, that's actually kind of funny.
That's just a game ender. It's the thing that people did with balance, but with Beseech the Mirror. We'll
Right.
say that you also ritualed or something for Beseech the Mirror in that theoretical Christmas land.
Yeah, it's funny. Does this make restore balance playable? Maybe. Get your copies now. Spec buy. Restore balance. It's going to go up, guys. Let's drive that price up. Come on, let's do what they did to GameStop. It's not. It's not going to happen. We're not going to make millions of dollars, people. I'm sorry. Isn't there a biopic on that whole situation now? The GameStop
I
shenanigans.
I have no idea.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. All right. So next topic, we're gonna move on to some Ixalan coverage. Hey guys, for joining in. If you missed the Beseech the Mirror commentary, well, we resolved it. This is going to be a VOD, and I will put timestamps so you can go to wherever you want. But right now, we're just going to be talking about the handful of cards that have come out from Ixalan, and there are it's quite the handful. I guess we could start with the reprinted lands. You know what's interesting? The art for the basics, actually super fond of. Have you seen these yet?
Yeah, I like them. The one I don't like is the plains. That is the only one I don't like, and kind of the island. I like the other three though.
Yeah, I get that. We could start here though. So they're doing that thing that they did with Champions of not Champions of whatever, Neon Dynasty Kamigawa, where you have like the same art in different colors, but you gotta have this cool like highlighter effects Cavern of Souls, which is amazing because Cavern of Souls is a very expensive card and crucial. Oh, sorry. I was thinking this was Gemstone Caverns. This card sucks. Cavern of Souls is very expensive though, and people like running it because they're fools.
I will say,
So,
happy the Cavern of Souls is getting that reprint just because it's expensive and it's good in those decks where you really need your commander out.
mm-hmm. Yeah. But for a majority of other lists, stop running a Cavern of Souls. What are you doing? Stop running Cavern of Souls. Why are you doing this to yourself? You're putting a colorless slot in your list for this. Are you really that worried? You think I want to counter your Kenrith? Get out of here.
You're
Well,
telling me
that
you're not running Cavern of Souls in your Oswald deck, Patrick? Make all your artificers uncounterable. Get that Ether Sworn. Get that Oswald.
no, I would name gnomes just because. No, I don't really feel that Cavern of Souls is a good card. And we can talk about this for a second. Here, I'm gonna pass it off to you guys. I've been saying this for years, but is Cavern of Souls a good card? So Will brought up the scenario where you just need to get your commander out. So you could say, I don't know, you're on Godo. I don't know. That seems important, right?
Godo is like
Um,
the one everyone goes to for Cavern of Souls.
Right, but I would rather like, well, you would want your Hall of the Bandit Lord, Cavern of Souls, like you want all of your like lands in place to get the most out of your Godo turn. But I don't find Cavern of Souls to be well, for the speaking of like cost to benefit analysis, like this card is over $40 for the standard printing, and I don't think it's better than Beseech the Mirror. I don't I could tell you that. It's definitely not better than Beseech the Mirror, and I would definitely put my money towards that over this, even though it's exclusively black and this can go into any list, because I can't think of many lists where you care about having your commander out and have it be uncounterable, because the majority of the counters in the game don't really target creatures to begin with. Like the counters that you see people slinging like in battles on the stack, they're not ones that could consequently hit a creature too. They're usually like specifically for instances, artifacts, enchantments, everything else but creatures, because people usually don't give a shit. I gotta say, you know, like the amount of times I've seen Thassa's Oracle resolve, Dockside resolve, just countless commanders resolve without Cavern of Souls in play, it's just gonna happen. Like no one cares, is what I'm saying. Not enough for you to run this card. Do not waste $40 on this. Buy Beseech the Mirror. Buy any other card first.
On top of the fact that it's like unless you are running uh specifically like tribal stuff or have a bunch of overlapping tribal, you're not playing this card. CDH doesn't run like any tribal effects. If you want to play your commander out and don't want it to get countered, then Cavern of Souls is good. But even then, how many commanders do you run that you need to hope that it doesn't get countered? And the only ones I can think of are like Godo and Gitrog. And if your commander's countered in like any other scenario, you're kind of fine with it.
You probably
So
run it.
you
You
have other
probably
things
run it
you
in
can do.
Anala, right? You probably want this in Anala.
Yeah, there's
I'm just kidding.
yes, totally, totally.
Well, no,
Um,
well, if you ever had to get there, but you would say wizards, right? And
yeah.
your spell seeker's really
Um,
safe.
yeah, it's good in stuff like Nala as well, but the issue is it's like look at the number of CDH decks that exist, look at the number of CDH decks that want this, and the number of CDH decks that exist is like a couple hundred to maybe
Mhm.
even thousand at this point if you want to count each variant. And the number of decks that want to run this is like single digits, maybe low double digits.
Yeah, I'm certainly not arguing that it's a good like effect on a card propaganda. So are there better options to replace Cavern of Souls? Yes, just run basic planes if you're on Oswald. Right. It's like, so here's my thing. It has a strong effect. I just feel like things resolve more often than they don't. Yeah, that's the fact of the matter. Because the other thing you're pressuring the table to do is waste a counterspell. You're saying that the thing I'm casting is important enough that you're going to want to use a counterspell. But like I said, how often do you see the Dockside resolve, the Orcish Bowmasters resolve, the Opposition Agent resolve, the Thassa's Oracle resolve? Name a creature. Name a creature. I'm not even looking at commanders at this point because really, I would only play this card if there was some synergy, like Will was saying, that there's some instance of tribal in the deck. So what, Thrasios, Merfolk, and Thassa's Oracle. So you have two things that are uncounterable. Even in those instances, I can't say that people are going to waste a counter on those creatures. It just never happens. It just never happens. And just like, look, all the games we played yesterday over the 5.5 hours, I can count the number of creatures that were countered on one hand. It was this many. I'm pretty sure 0 creatures were countered. So I can't say that Cavern of Souls would have been useful in any of those instances, and it would have been a detriment because it's only creating colorless. I don't think it's a good card.
Agreed.
I'm sorry. But I know that's not the majority opinion, so this will make a really great short. Feel free to grill me. Let me know why you would play it. Let me know what you play it in.
The decks that want Cavern of Souls, those decks use it very well. The decks that don't want Cavern of Souls will never play Cavern of Souls.
Yeah.
It's basically a either it's a 10 out of 10 or it's a 0 out of 10. There is no middle ground for Cavern of Souls, at least in CDH.
Joe, thank you for joining us. Oh boy, play Soul Ring. That's a really hot topic. A real hot topic. Yeah, it's not that the topic itself is something that's gonna grind everyone's gears. It's just the fact that people were saying that you shouldn't play it, and we decided we wanted to talk on it. But we'll get to that talking point in a second. Are you gonna get burned for your take on Soul Ring? Says Tommaso. No, we're open book here. Feel free to speak your mind. I really want you to speak your mind here. Trust me. But let me go ahead and we might get stuck on Cavern of Souls. Will, how many more questions or thoughts from the audience do you want to field before we move on to Ixalan? 2?
Yeah, we can do like two. Like we can quickly
Okay.
go through what the audience has said, then we can just keep covering
Oh.
Ixalan stuff.
Joe says if the creature that wins the game that you counter Thassa's Oracle, yeah, no one counters Thassa's Oracle. You would counter the Tainted Pack or Demonic Consultation, I guess, and let them scry. Like, that doesn't hurt. So the way this works out is Thassa's Oracle on the stack. Does it resolve? ETB. Trigger on the stack. Then they hold priority, do their thing. Then people interact. Because there are far more solutions packed into decks to just remove creatures than there are counter spells that also work on creatures, because the majority of the time the counter spells are going to be operating on the stack to battle things on the stack that are more important than creatures, right? It's only important when the Dockside resolves. It's only important when the Thassa's Oracle resolves, and at that point it's too late. So I guess maybe there's an argument to counter more creatures, but not really. But Paradox says the only reason I have one is because I pulled it from the list spot. That's awesome. I would just trade it and get something else. Honestly, that's
Get up Siege the Mirror.
exactly. That's immediately something I would send to Card Kingdom and be like, hey, please give me credit for this, please. I've played the card in my Elemental Animar deck. No fixing other cards was more of a problem than a little upside. All right, and ending the poll there because I feel like the audience is probably not going to agree with me. Okay, we've got 63% say Cavern of Souls is a good card. I wholeheartedly disagree. Moving on. We got the basic lands from Ixalan. I don't know if these just come in every list or how these are going to be like seeded in packs, but these are really cool. I hope there's more variations. But I like how Magic is diversifying its framing and art style now. That's really all I want to point out here because these are really, really cool lands. It kind of reminds me of Sorcery, which I just want to keep talking about on the channel because Sorcery is a game I freaking love. It is so good. I'm gonna try to get some proxy decks together to play tomorrow. So after the stream, I'll be theory craft. Hell, I might even extend the stream as I theory craft. And Will, if you want to sit with me, you can. But if you guys want to talk Sorcery with me later, I'll extend the stream and we can talk Sorcery. But I need to make a list for tomorrow. But this reminds me of the sites in Sorcery a little bit. Just these full frame arts. I think Swamp is maybe my least favorite though. Will.
I like Swamp. Swamp is probably my most favorite. I really like the simplistic art style.
Okay. I would say that Forest is like so flavorful. Like I love seeing this person journeying. It reminds me of the Path to Exile art of the guy like about to step through the portal. Very, very sick.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the very, very simple art style cards for the lands. So like anytime that I see something that's like this Swamp, I'm like, I love it. This art style is one of my favorite art styles. I don't even know the name of it. I should know the name of it because I've heard it before, but I don't know it off the top of my hand.
Oh, that's
But
okay.
it's
Yeah.
if I'd rate them from like most favorite to least favorite, I go like Swamp, Mountain, Forest, Island, Plains.
I agree with that. I like Mountain a lot too. I'm always looking for new plains art to put into Oswald, and for the longest time I've been on snow-covered plains, but I do think I'm switching away from Arkham's Astrolabe soon, probably for Agatha's Soul Cauldron. I just need to buy a copy, which means I can go away from snow-covered plains, and I'm not hurting for options anymore, which is the coolest thing. I think lands in Magic the Gathering are the one way that I think 100% of us, I'm just going to say 100%, that's the statistic, where we all bling out our list. Like it's probably the most exciting way to bling out a deck. Agree or disagree, Will?
I'm a big fan of blinging out my lands for certain decks. I won't go super hardcore into it a lot of the time, but I will say I own at least one foil copy of each of the Constellation lands. Those Theros just mana symbol ones that started the whole just mana symbol craze.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, as soon as you mentioned the simplistic art, I was gonna say if you liked the Theros lands, and apparently you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of like Pokemon's elemental sort of mana base, where it's just the symbol. I really do like that as well. This is so weird because I haven't had to think about my basic lands in Oswald in a long time, but I'm not gonna lie, the prospect is super exciting. I feel like we can all get in on new lands, and I love when sets come out with new themed lands. I don't know if this Plains is my favorite though. I still think my favorite Plains was from, oh my god, I'm not gonna find it. Sorry, we really should move on. I promise we will. My favorite Plains is, oh my god, not Eric Peterson's Thunder Plains, despite the fact that the Thunder Plains is iconic, or John Avon's Field of Wheat, which reminds me of the Gladiator every single time. It was a jumpstart Plains with the reflection on a shield of a Plains in the background. It was
I see the one that you're talking about.
Right here.
Number 545.
Luis Lashido's Plains. Luis Lashido, if you're out there, you've made what I think is the best Plains in this game. I honestly feel like this is the best Plains in Magic the Gathering. I like the elements of this card. I like the fact that it's not a direct view of what you're considering a Plains, but as a player playing a wizard, summoning like creatures and stuff, this fits the theme of the game the most for me. And it just feels like a mana source I would be utilizing logically as like, you know, out of perspective from the game, playing this game. It's just so cool. I don't know why I like this plane so much outside of every reason I listed there. But I think it's just like a handsome looking card, amazing art. I love the idea behind it. And there's not really another planes or any lands that kind of matches this style. And I know for a lot of people, this one's probably just really boring, but it's my favorite planes for sure.
Um, if I'd give a recommendation for planes for Oswald, I'd say either do the Phyrexian.
I just saw, yeah, I just saw it. What the hell?
Like it's the most artifact looking planes that
Yeah,
you'll
yeah, yeah.
probably get. So the Phyrexian one, or one that's kind of underrated in my opinion that might look good in Oswald, is the Dominaria stained glass planes. If you
Oh,
get
I'm
that
not
in
even
foil,
familiar.
those are sick.
I will have to look that up, but I had no idea that All Will Be One had such good planes. Yeah, but again, I haven't really looked at basics in a while, and I'm looking over them now. I got a lot of these Shire planes from some of the Lord of the Rings stuff. I could honestly rock some Lord of the Rings, only because, like you were saying the other day, Will, I should get a Bilbo Baggins altar for Oswald. If I got a Bilbo Baggins or Frodo Baggins altar for Oswald, I would 100% go with the Shire planes.
Yeah.
That'd be
Um,
so good.
one thing that you might like. So there's art cards for some of the planes that exist. So you can get like full just the art with no text or anything on the cards at all, no border or anything on the cards. So
Mm.
you could do that if you really like a specific one of those arts, because there's one that has like broken down mechs on a field for
Oh,
Dominaria stuff.
we'll talk after the show.
Yeah, hold up.
What?
I'll send it. I'll just quickly put this to you in Discord because you can type your copy paste that into the Scryfall search,
Hmm.
and then it'll give you the search thing.
So I'm gonna just go over what you guys are saying in the comments because I love art. Really helps make a lot of these TCGs for me. Like it's the reason I get into a lot of games. Like the aesthetic that these illustrators provide the game and help paint the world. That gets me more involved in playing. So I get really giddy about this stuff. I'm not an art critic. I don't have the vocabulary to articulate my feelings on good art, but I know what I like. And I love what MTG does with its artist and its basic land base. I think it's the most exciting update to any list if you're interested in getting new lands. The lands haven't looked those good since Theros. You like the new Ixalan basics, cool. The only problem I see with
Yes.
the only problem I see with every new art is that Magic is moving into collectible territory first and the card game second. I still think though mechanically we're seeing a lot of cool cards, right? I think that the set that really broke this game was Theros Beyond Death. Like I think that Thassa's Oracle and Underworld Breach in the same set, that was still the biggest impact on the Commander format for competitive players in a long time. But Lord of the Rings with Orcish Bowmaster and the One Ring really are helping define the kind of interaction and territory people are playing in now. And that was fresh. Like that's a new set. So I don't think they're moving too far away, right, from the mechanics.
Yeah, but it's funny that you bring up Theros Beyond Death because that's also the set that got
I know.
Wizards to start messing with the art on
I
all the
know.
lands.
Yeah,
Because
it's
that's where we get our
pivotal.
constellation lands.
It's so weird, but like that set was really pivotal. I would say in the last few years, Theros Beyond Death is probably one of the most important sets for Commander players. Yeah, agree or disagree, Will. What has been the most impactful set in the last 3 years?
That is the most impactful set. Like Theros Beyond Death is the one that kind of changed everything, even though it didn't feel like it changed everything. Outside of like them adding the collector's boosters so that you can get alternate art for things. But Theros Beyond Death is when they're like, we're just gonna do something simple and different for the art. And then everyone started buying those lands, and those became some of the most
Right.
expensive lands that you can get pretty quickly.
Which was so funny because I don't know if they realized how much of impact that little change would have. And obviously, they're aware of it now, just by virtue of the fact that they're dropping like secret lair drops every month. There is a calling for good art, and which makes me really happy. Wizard says 100% correct. My favorite land is the misprint forest that is a plains, says Joe. Simple art is hot. Gotta say, my favorite basics are the pixel art snow secret layers. I will have to look that up. Shows the protection of nature white. Shows the protection nature of white. Yeah. Yeah, the shield. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't articulate that, but that is so true. Dominaria stained glass planes is my phone
Yeah.
background. Well,
Yes.
you hit a nerve. All right, so guys, if you don't have a mana crypt, well, pick a color. Which one do you want? I would say the most interesting of these is the one that has red border and yellow. It's interesting that these two are so similar to one another. The yellow altar and the red altar. But the rest of them are sort of color coordinated. So you have a green one, a red one, a purple one, a blue one. We don't need to harp on these long. Mana Crypt's one of those cards that should be in every list like Soul Ring, and it's expensive. So treat yourself. Let's get to the new stuff. We have Indominus Rex Alpha. And I'll just read this off for us, and audience, you can give us your 2 cents, and Will, you can give me your 2 cents. Indominus Rex Alpha is one generic Dimir, Forest, 6/6, legendary creature, dinosaur, mama. In Indominus Rex Alpha, as Indominus Rex Alpha enters the battlefield, discard any number of creature cards. It enters with flying counter on it if a card discarded this way has flying. The same is true for First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Hexproof, Haste, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Reach, Trample, and Vigilance. So kudos to you if you get all of those counters. When Indominus Rex enters the battlefield, draw a card for each counter on it. Is there a creature that just has all of those effects? Like Rogreg has 3.
Not all of them, but there's a Zatalpa, which is flappy, double slappy, never tappy, blocks are crappy. All of the keywords.
So Indominus Rex, thoughts here. It's very costly. You're asking yourself food chain to Miss Hollow Griffin. So the thing is, you need to discard a creature. I kind of wish that you could just discard any number of cards.
The issue is, it's not even discard a creature. It is you need to discard a creature with a keyword. Because if you don't discard a creature with a keyword, it doesn't get a counter. If it doesn't get a counter, you don't get a draw.
Right, so I'm trying to think like the average list. How many of these creatures have just a consequential keyword that will provide a counter for Indominus Rex? I like lists, and I've said this before on the channel, I love decks that encourage you to brew a specific way, but I feel like this is very narrow.
So, Indomitable Rex is just so awkward. If I'd say one way that you can build the commander, I would say +1/+1 counter synergy. Because if you can make it enter with +1/+1 counters, you draw cards. In addition to the fact that it's an ETB trigger for the draw effect. If you have spells that allow you to put a bunch of +1/+1 counters, or abilities that allow you to put a bunch of +1/+1 counters on a card, then you can make Indomitable Rex draw you like 10 cards very easily.
So like Ivy Lane Denizen, right? So at ETBs, if it's a green creature, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and then this triggers. Yeah, that's actually a good utility. I didn't even think of that.
Like Metallic Mimic, other things like that as well. And then you can do what's it called? The 1 green for an enchantment that when 1 counter would be put on something, put 2 instead. I should know the name of that, but I don't for some reason.
I know Wizard is commenting the same thing. You're absolutely right, Wizard. You can definitely run just a strategy that puts count. They don't need to be these specific counters. You are absolutely right.
Yep. In addition to the fact that you can use the instants that say double the counters on target creature, and then you can have this enter with like 5 counters with whatever. Then before the ETB resolves, double them, then double them again, and you draw like 20. So you can do stuff with that. The issue is that if you want to do food chain with this, that means that you need the 2-card food chain set up and like Metallic Mimic on board to do infinite draws, and that's just very awkward. This is good at...
Oh, sorry. Jeff Wren has an interesting suggestion, which is to do a news pile and or Agatha's Soul Cauldron pile, which kind of gives you counters as well. So just use Indomitable Rex as a utility for like a Buried Alive kind of stack. That's interesting. I think that would go into the 99 of this list, but what were you going to say, Will, as like an alternative?
Oh, that's funny. Dual Commander PH, Agatha's Soul Cauldron, and Phyrexian Devourer. So you have in response to the ETB trigger, exile a creature, then you exile like 5 cards from the top of your deck, and this enters with like 20 counters. That's funny.
That's actually really funny. Dual Commander PH, please make the list and put it in the comments of this video afterwards. I want to share. I want to share the joy of that. That sounds like a dumb strategy. Speaking of dumb strategies, I think we can move on from Indomitable Rex. Sorry, we do tend to linger. Ian, it's so I'm not gonna say I love Jeff Goldblum, but I like him a whole lot, and it's just I'm so envious that all these people get immortalized in MTG because all I want to do is be on a playable card in MTG. But Ian Malcolm Chaotician for, hey, maybe a new Is It staple. We got a generic and Is It legendary creature, human scientist, 2/2 body. Whenever a player draws their second card each turn, that player exiles the top card of their library. During each player's turn, that player may cast a spell from among the cards they don't own, exiled with Ian Malcolm Chaotician. And mana of any type can be used to cast said spells. You've heard of chaos theory. So what I want to see, a la Doctor Who, is the kids from these films be a companion with scientist or something like that. Because if we can build out partner pairings with the scientist, I would lose my shit. And I feel like fans would be really excited for that. I have not watched the preview videos. I've only seen some of the spoils. I don't know if they've talked on the rest of the legendaries that are coming out from this universe's beyond. But thoughts on Ian Malcolm Chaotician?
He is very interesting because you can do like a group hug thing where you just have anything that gives players an additional draw each turn, and then you're disrupting their deck on top of the fact that you're letting other people play other people's cards.
Counters.
So it doesn't matter. It
Counters
doesn't
out
even
of color. Yeah.
yeah. It doesn't even matter if your deck with Ian isn't good because you're playing the best cards from everybody else as well. So there's a lot of very weird things that you can do with Ian. And the only question that I have is Malcolm or Malcolm, which is the better Malcolm?
Ooh. This one. I'm gonna say that this one's the better Malcolm. Uh
I just find it very funny. We have two Malcolms now.
what's a good third option to that's good. Okay. Yeah. I feel like with that, all I can say is welcome to Jurassic Park, people. It makes me really want to rewatch that first film. I mean, I don't want to put it, not to date myself. I remember the first film when it came out. It was good. It was really good. It was groundbreaking, and I more than anything remember the soundtrack from Jurassic Park. So all of this shit gets me really excited. Will, I think I need to set up the loop deck here as a soundboard. We need music or just quotes from Lord of the Rings. But there was one ring. And just press that every single time someone plays the one ring, and then the Jurassic Park opening theme when they open the gates, they visit the park.
I still say that you should add you should get what is it, Nitro, and then add soundboard stuff to the 99 Discord, like the One Ring, because that's a funny thing, and then anyone can do it if they're in the Discord.
Well, I almost feel like we should just start trying to use the audio off of Spell Table. We'll see. That would expedite a lot of things. And honestly, next time we run an FNM here, guys, the next one that is without invited guest of a play group of 4, I might just run random games on Spell Table. That could be really bad. But if you are interested in chaos like I am and Ian, we could just do random games with strangers. Will, would that be so bad?
I'm fine with random games as strangers.
Okay.
I'd like to play with our boys in chat.
Yeah, well, obviously I want to leave links to you guys, but people randomly playing on Spell Table CDH games, we might try that to see how bad that is, because it took a while to get the ball rolling with our own audience.
You're saying with just doing randos in Spell Table, I'm like, ah.
Oh no, I am exclusively putting like in the, because there's a place to leave a description. I would say CDH games. CDH games. Any rate, we'll see. We might try that. It could be bad, could be good.
Yeah, we have to let people know they're on stream as well before we do anything.
Yes. That'll be in the description as well. So if they're not into that, then I'll kick them. But we've got Skullspore Nexus. Oh my god, there are a lot of cards to go through. I realize. We'll try.
Also, I love this art. The alternate art.
Yeah, this is pretty dope.
The Mayan style thing is really cool.
So I'll put them both on screen. There's these two. So Skull Sport, I like both of these actually. So it's 6 generic and double green legendary artifact. The spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Savala calling you. Whenever one or more non-token creatures you control dies, create a green fungus dinosaur creature token with base power and toughness, each equal to the total power of those creatures. Huh.
Phyrexian Dreadnought, I'm calling you.
Right, but specifically that's 2 ETBs on Savala.
Yep.
That's actually really cool.
And then finally,
yeah, pay 2 double target creature's power until end of turn. Is this a
Savala, I'm calling you.
Is this a staple in Savala? Is this what green needed?
This is Savala staple.
This is outstanding. This is really good. Whenever one or more non-token creatures you control dies, you just create a. This is really good. This is really good.
Can I also point out a very funny thing?
Oh.
Yargle Multani.
Yargle Multani?
Get it up to 36 power, and when that creature dies, you get another Yargle Multani.
It saves you so much in the storm. Oh my god.
That's the funny thing, because you can play this, double Yargle Multani's attack to 36, then you sacrifice it, draw like 36 or something, then you get an 18/18 off of that, which you can then sacrifice for 18 treasures.
Oh, this is so interesting. I was joking about making Yargle Multani in paper, but there's always more and more reasons to make Yargle and Multani in paper. That seems pretty good. Man, another green card for my Eldrazi Azusa, please, Watsy. Let's move on. I agree though. That's pretty. Yes, that's really good. Gulta Stampede Tyrant for 5 generic and triple green legendary creature Elder Dinosaur. I can't get over that. That's so good. Okay. Elder Dinosaur 12/12 trample. When Gulta Stampede Tyrant enters the battlefield, put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. They do not need to be dinosaurs or elders or anything like that. You pay 8. You put your hand down. Is this good?
A thundering roar calls forth a primal army. So this is the one card that I was saying could be another good green search effect, because if you can cheat this out with a natural order or something like that, you just go ETB trigger, everything into play can't be countered. Mm-hmm. And depending on your deck, this could be freaking insane. So it's quite good. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to put green to where it needs to be, but basically saying pay 8 mana to cheat in like 20 mana worth of creatures isn't too bad.
No. I mean, it's a base 12/12 with trample, which is already good, but I mean, it is a high cost requirement. I feel like in Savala Storm, do you really need this? It might be win more at that point. I feel like just cheating out Finale of Devastation with Eternal Witness loops is arguably better, but as its own commander, I think this is going to be cool in a casual setting.
Yeah, I will also say, this is nice with Protean Hulk, because if you draw your Protean Hulk so you can't cheat it in anymore with something, you can just cheat in Gulta instead.
Mm-hmm. So, wait, what about Protean Hulk with the Skull Spore Nexus?
Well, does that do anything?
Create a green fungus dinosaur creature token with the base. No, never mind. I thought it was I thought it was a copy. I thought it got the ability. No. Okay. No, that would have been maybe a little too broke, but it is 8 CMC, so whatever. Yeah. It's whatever.
If you would natural order in your Protean Hulk, but you draw your Protean Hulk first, now you can natural order your Gulta to get out your Protean Hulk and all your stacks and control pieces, and then use your Protean Hulk. So It's like a redundant piece to protect your Helm of the Host, because everyone hates when they draw their Helm of the Host in Godo.
True. And we have Welcome to new saga.
And flips to Jurassic Park. Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Transforms from Welcome to. This is amazing. So it's a generic and double green saga, obviously. So the first step of the saga is for each opponent up to 1 target non-creature artifact they control becomes a 0/4 wall artifact creature with defender for as long as you control this saga. Then create a 3/3 green dinosaur creature token with trample, and it gains haste until end of turn. Okay, that's pretty dope. I don't feel like this is necessarily for our format, but let's continue. Destroy all walls, exile this saga, then return it to the battlefield transformed under your control. And you get Jurassic Park. Each dinosaur card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost is equal to the card's mana cost plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. So it's Underworld Breach for your dinosaurs. Yeah. But not only that, tap for a green for each dinosaur you control. So it's a Gaia's Cradle for your dinosaurs. This is goofy. I don't know if it's something that will be played outside of Dinosaur Tribal, but it's really cool. It is
very slow, but it is very funny. I don't think it's gonna see any CDH play, but it's a thing. It is definitely a thing.
I agree. I hope this god is playable because the art looks amazing. I'm sorry, these are my first time seeing these cards, so we're exploring these with you guys. We have Huatli, Poet of Unity. For 2 generic and a green, when Huatli, Poet of Unity, enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Come on. Unban Primetime. Just unban Primetime. Green, that's what green needs. Green needs maybe Rafellos. I don't know. Just unban these cards that are not that broken.
Why is Rafellos still banned? I don't get it. There's things that make better mana now. I get that it's like, oh, you're playing green, so get more mana, and that's insane. But like, oh no, my Rafellos taps for 4 green. Circle of Dreams drew a tap for 18.
Yeah.
Like, that's... I don't get it.
I don't get it either, man. Come on. Free Rafellos. So for 3 generic and Boros, so you are in Naya, exile Huatli, then return it to the battlefield transformed under her owner's control, activate only as a sorcery. So if you hijack this and did the effect, big mistake. So you get Roar of the Fifth People. You should have met the fourth people. They were a real handful. Create 2 3/3 green dinosaur creature tokens without trample, no haste. Roar the Fifth People gains creatures you control can tap for Naya. Search your library for a dinosaur card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Dinosaurs you control, man, put it into your hand. You just spent 5 for this. I get that your dinosaurs are... okay. Dinosaurs you control gain double strike and trample until end of turn. This is okay. Again, another Dinosaur Tribal specific card. It is very slow, as sagas are. It doesn't have read ahead, and it's okay.
I think that this, depending on the dinos that we get from the set, this could be really good, because if we have some kind of combo that we can set up, this just being a Dino Tutor is good, and this turning all of your dinos into dorks can be good. So, I don't think it's going to be good enough in the end, but there is potential for this to be good.
Yeah, so far as your mythic rares are concerned, fingers crossed that you get one of the other ones. We have I don't know how to pronounce this. I'm going to say Oxenil, Deepest Might. For 2 generic and double red, 4/4 body legendary creature god. There are more cards than I thought that released from these previews the other day.
We're almost done.
If a red source you control would deal an amount of non-combat damage less than Odra Oxenil's power to an opponent, that source deals damage equal to its power instead. Okay, so that's interesting. Non-combat damage specifically. So your creatures attacking aren't going to be 4 whatevers. Your lightning bolt is essentially a giant lightning bolt.
Your gut shot is 0 mana, deal 4.
That's really not bad. And is it to any target? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay, cool. When Oxenil dies, return it to the battlefield tapped and transform under its owner's control. Oh, that's interesting. So you could technically, it's like the last set where you had Rile Up or whatever. Like there were effectively a purpose to bolt or shock your own thing or ping your own thing. So you ping this and you transform it into a land that taps for a red, and you can pay 2 in a red, transform Temple of Power. Activate only if red sources you control dealt 4 or more non-combat damage this turn, and only as a sorcery. So it sounds like you don't want to flip it.
Yeah, it's if it would die, it turns into a land and comes back. That's the idea.
So could you just put in the CZ if you really wanted to? You could.
Yes, right? But this gets around commander tax, so I do kind of like this. What is it? Oxenil. Oxenil. He's very interesting because you can definitely do some weird stuff with like potential goblin sharpshooter things. Because if you just kill a couple things, goblin sharpshooter just starts going 4/4/4/4 dead to an opponent's face. In addition to the fact that this with Grape Shot is hilarious.
Yeah, actually, this with Grape Shot is hilarious. What does your storm
And
turn look like? I wish it aided the storm a little bit better, but
yeah, it's the storm turn would probably just be play a couple burn spells, then play Grape Shot. I will also say the fact that you can buff this into damage or buffing your damage spells is really good as well. Because
what?
if you can do any split damage effect, you're just killing people with enough buffs.
That's actually kind of gnarly. Um, I'm trying to think of the best way to manipulate Osier, and nothing is immediately coming to mind for this specific guy. I guess anything that doubles or triples your damage will also impact how much you're doing, but I think like straight up buffs or equipment will probably do the most,
Yeah,
basically. That's not bad. So I'd run some like protection equipment, keep it on board, keep it online, keep it secret, keep it safe, kill people. That's cool. I like it.
even if it dies, you can just deal 4 damage with something, then reflip
Mhm.
this, and then re-equip the equipment.
Wizard says after Imidane the Pyro Hammer and now this burn eating good. Yeah, facts. Also, you can run this in Urobrosk, the new Storm Urobrosk. Yeah, for sure. I kind of like it there. Or I guess maybe Bergie wants it. I don't know. Cast Insult on top of this. Yikes. Yeah. I'm gonna do Lord of Atlantis really quickly before we cover Britches. Lord of Atlantis, double blue, create creature merfolk, excuse me, 2/2 body. Other merfolks get +1/+1 and have island walk. That's really good for merfolk tribal. This is really cool art.
Yep, it's a good reprint.
Yeah, yeah. Just new art. But we've got Britches. So this is not the older partners with. I believe the older one is it's Malcolm Britches, right? Like that was the partner pairing.
That was what it was supposed to be, yeah. This
Different
is not partner
card.
with, it's just a partner.
Right. This is really good art, by the way. The one to the right. I'm gonna highlight this one because it looks freaking awesome. But we have Britches, Eager Pillager for 2 generic and a red 3/3 body Goblin Pirate legendary creature. First strike. Whenever a pirate you control attacks, kind of wish you could pair it now. Whenever a pirate you control attacks, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Okay, well that'll put a damper on things. Create a treasure token. Target creature can't block this turn. It's quite good. Exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn.
They should have removed the choose one that you haven't chosen this turn effect. It should have just been whenever a pirate you control attacks, and that would have been completely balanced. That would not have been balanced for standard, but that would have been
No.
balanced for commander.
Yeah, it is limited. It's limited in two regards. The fact that you can only choose the thing once, and the fact that it has to be a pirate.
Yeah. It could have been great. It could have been great.
It makes all your pirates worse Ragavans.
Yeah.
Fact.
It's not even that though, because it makes one pirate like a worst Ragavan because you attack with 5 pirates and you choose
Yeah.
all 3 and then that's it. You can only make one treasure, make one thing unblock or that can't block, and then make one thing or and then you exile the top card and nothing else. You can't like get 5 treasures in a turn or something.
It's not even a better. I wish that it had Ragavan's effect of exiling your opponent's top card. Like I would kind of prefer that. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
I would like hitting your
Wait.
opponents better.
How is he even pillaging if he's not exiling your opponent's library? He's
Yeah.
pillaging himself.
Yeah.
I
Card does not make sense. Card is a flavor loss. Card is just a general loss.
don't know how I
Should have
feel.
been better.
Don't know how I feel about this. Okay. Well, that's it for that. I think it's time to go on to our main topic. And if you're still here, thanks for joining us on this lovely Saturday morning for Untapped TCG Podcast. I should lead with this every video, but I don't. If you enjoy the content here, it goes a long way if you leave it with a like before you go. So if you're joining in just now, hit it with a like. Or if you need to go, understandable, hit it with a like. But we're getting on to our main topic here. Feel free to hang out and also leave comments in the VOD after this is done. If there are links you want to share with us, anything else you want to discuss that we didn't get to during the live stream experience. But we're going to be talking about a little card called Soul Ring. So we're going to give you some reasons for and against it, and we just want to get your general opinions on the card. And I'm pulling up the newest art that I'm seeing from Dan Fraser here. This looks freaking awesome. It's in our thumbnail as well. But Soul Ring, you can't really see it in the thumbnail. It's kind of hidden. Whew. It's generic. It's been around since alpha. It's been around for a while. It's classic. Probably the most reprinted card. Am I mistaken?
Other than lands.
Other than basic lands, and it's like even competing with that. Like there are so many copies of Sol Ring. It's absurd. You all have a copy of Sol Ring, and yet it's always over $1. So if you're just trying to fish out trade fodder from those bargain bins, pull out all the Sol Rings, pull out all the dorks. Like they're usually worth it. But Sol Rings, pay 1, tap it, create 2 generic. So this is our main topic. You've seen a lot of discussion recently online about how you shouldn't run Sol Ring, and Will, why don't you give us the quick TLDR as to why you might not want to run Sol Ring, and then we'll talk about all the reasons why you should run Sol Ring.
So, Sol Ring is a good card, but there's a couple situations when it's not good enough. So, if you're running a deck that doesn't have a lot of draw and has a relatively low curve, you don't need a lot of extra mana. 1 land a turn is usually sufficient to allow you to play 1 to 2 cards a turn, and that will let you kind of curve out and win the game. The reason why most people run Sol Ring in CDH is most decks are relatively fast decks, and they do want to ramp out into some crazy bomb card or draw a ton of cards.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're running a slower, stacksier deck, then Sol Ring isn't really necessary. I think Charles gave a couple examples where he said that he ran mono white decks that didn't really need the extra mana for anything,
Mm-hmm.
and it's those type of decks that don't want Sol Ring, because if you are trying to, I'll use an example of the one that I didn't run Sol Ring in recently, Sarvok with Noble Heritage. Sarvok is 4 mana, Noble Heritage is 2 mana, every card in the deck was really 2 or less mana, with the other only exception being Smothering Tithe, because that gives you treasures to sack to avoid the Sarvok damage. That deck doesn't need Sol Ring or rituals or anything like that, because you're okay with just playing lands and building up a stacks board until you can naturally play Sarvok, and then you just continue to play stacks pieces, and that's really it. Alternatively, the other reason why you don't want to run Sol Ring is if your deck already has sufficient ramp through either creatures or lands or something like that, like Tatiova sometimes doesn't run Sol Ring, or the very creature-heavy decks don't always run Sol Ring. And the other reason why is because they'll run Null Rod, Collector Oof, Artifact Hate, things that they want to get out because it's going to shut down pretty much every other deck at the table.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple reasons why you don't want to run Sol Ring. To sum it up quickly, 1, you don't need the mana, and because you're not drawing and not playing high-cost things, or 2, you have mana coming from other locations, and it's better to have it come from those other locations. That's like the long and short of it. I could go on like an hour to 2 hour rant on it, but I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I think that one list that I've brewed where I didn't incorporate Sol Ring was Belby, because it didn't lend to a turn 1, like, or turn 2 Belby. It wasn't really like a meaningful play in that list. It's interesting because for that list, you really just wanted your Pinger turn 1, Belby turn 2 into big dumb stacks piece. So Sol Ring didn't really help you pilot into any of that there. The other thing is, it's interesting because Sol Ring and a lot of artifacts, namely treasures, just get away with it because not many people are running hate for artifacts these days outside of just removal. Like the Collector Oops of the world are not really hitting the table that often. They're just not, because mostly everyone is on the same game plan of needing like their utilities out early, and Sol Ring just pays for the double generic or the generic and a cost of a thing. I think in most cases where you could argue it's not good because your deck has a lot of pips, I would just start counting all of the instances where there's a generic and its cost, and think about the ways that you can have more interaction or more plays made available just because you're generating 2 colorless. We can talk about all the reasons why we like Sol Ring. This talking point is more of, like, obviously opinionated, but based off of our general experience. I'd love to hear your thoughts, obviously, in the comments of this video and obviously in the live stream comments. So if you are here for us with this, let me know. But so far as, and I think we'll touch on all the major points why you might not want to run a Sol Ring, but to counter all of those statements, again, even in a monocolored list like Oswald, I think the games I won, it's to spoil things from the FNM, I think I played Sol Ring turn 1 both games. Actually, I did not win the Torpor Orb game. and that's not my fault. But it's the thing is, it's going to pay for all of those generic pips for you. So provided your list has a lot of colored pips, it doesn't even matter. Like Beseech the Mirror still wants a generic for its cost, and Sol Ring will get you there. And then you're also holding up a generic for your counterspell or your redirect or whatever, right? It's not like you're going to shift phases without using or abusing Sol Ring. And even a rock that was just 1 mana for 1 mana would still be really good. And I don't think we have that necessarily printed outside of like dorks, things that can operate on the same turn, like a Springleaf Drum. You know, it's just grossly effective in lists that can use it. But if they printed a Soul Ring, if they printed a mono ring that was a generic taps for a generic, I think it would be played in every list the same way Soul Ring is played in every list, potentially. Like, I feel like that's just generically good. So yeah, the mana is always the fact that it's a mana positive rock is important though, because it does play into combo lines, right? So there are a lot of Underworld Breach lines you see that manipulate Brain Freeze. But for the lists that aren't incorporating blue, or even if you just don't have access to your Brain Freeze, provided you're on Grinding Station, you can go mana positive into your turns while grinding yourself out into an Underworld Breach line of play. So the mana positivity is here is more important than it lets on, because it's also going to play into play lines or certain combos that need mana positive rocks. It just adds to that list. So Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, Mana Vault, Grim Monolith, these are all things that work very well in lines that require you have something tapping for 1 or more over its general cost. Without having to have a cost reducer online. And it's one that's immediately accessible for everyone, right? It's very wise of them to print as many copies as they do, because it's just that much of an essential. Even Wizards knows. And that's why we get so many copies of it along with all these like specialty copies that we have on screen now. The other thing is, like, it's all really just mana centric when it comes to this card. There's really no reason you shouldn't be running this unless the reasons Will already stipulated. There are just a few lists that might not be able to make the most out of this. And that's that. Like, and for those select few lists, don't run it. But I think that's maybe like 1% of the meta. I don't know how many lists are really, like, of all the legendaries, how many lists really don't want Soul Ring. And it's far and few between.
Yeah, I would say for every deck that doesn't want to run Soul Ring, there's like 30 decks that do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. There are double reasons why you want this effectively. It really depends on your commander too. Like Oswald converting a 1-drop into a 2-drop is very important, right? There's that alone. For me personally, I have personal reasons as to why Soul Ring is good. Like, I'm always happy to see it. But those turn 1 plays are so vital, particularly if I have game actions turn 1 that can benefit from having a Soul Ring. Like, you know, it's a virtual with something like Voltaic Key, it's virtually like I'm getting a free Voltaic Key from casting Soul Ring, and then I can cast whatever else. Like, I literally exampled playing Soul Ring into Voltaic Key into a Torpor Orb on turn 1. But I got to do more magic by virtue of the fact that I was playing Soul Ring. Soul Ring is great at drawing hate from your opponents, Wizard says. Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. I guess so. It's a little daunting to feel like your opponent has an advantage over you. Is it true? Like, that's so interesting that the Commander is only viable in Commander right now, and I guess Cube. But yet we see so many of them.
Yep, people in casual, if you get a turn 1 Soul Ring, you usually do get hated out of the game.
Is it really that vital in casual?
Yeah, people play it in like every casual deck, and if you see it turn 1, people will kind of collectively kill on sight. It's like playing an early Tevish. It's the same level of hate as that.
I get that. I only don't play Soul Ring in Rafine, but I have no cards over CMC4 and is highly color pip intensive, says Victoria. Okay.
And Rafine also doesn't net cards, it cycles cards, so it makes sense. I agree with that. That's a fair time to not run it.
Useless in Rafine. Bad card.
Horrible, awful, terrible.
Tommaso says, my opinion is fast mana limits creativity. Power should not be expressed by how strong your mana gain is. I would not mind banning Soul Ring. Oof. I don't think it would ever be banned necessarily. But you can like rule 0 that for whatever that's worth with your own play group.
Yeah, my one issue, because I do agree to some extent with the whole fast mana kind of limits creativity and everything, because every deck wants to run fast mana to play big, explosive, expensive cards.
Mm-hmm.
My issue is that if you get rid of fast mana, green just becomes the color. Because playing elves and everything like that would completely shift the power level of the game, and you're going to be the one ramping 2 insane turns way faster than everyone else. You're going to be hard casting a Peer into the Abyss on like turn 3 when everyone else is still trying to set up.
Oh,
So
we can't have that for green. You already know.
I know. Green's too powerful as it is.
No, we got to keep its face shoved in the mud, okay? No, there's no way.
You like the earth so much.
You like the earth so much, green? Have a taste. Yeah, I would say banning Soul Ring or banning any sort of fast mana would really increase the validity of like the Birds Paradise Delighted Halflings. Like we would see all of those crop up again. Or more so. I think that, you know, there are obviously lists that still want to incorporate dorks, but they're far and few between in a CDH setting, sadly. Like, even the green list realized that Chrome Mox is just better. It's just better at doing the thing. I can understand where it limits creativity to a certain extent. I think that there are new angles of approach to lists that you just wouldn't commonly see, although despite that fact, I think fast mana is usually thought of as something that fits into the turbo lines. Like you're just trying to get out the Adnos as quickly as possible, and then off the Adnos, do more fast mana to do more things. In that way, I understand it does limit your creativity, because those decks boil down to resolve Adnos, play my fast mana, play my rituals, play my combo cards, and then win with the same play lines that every other deck in those colors is winning with, right? So I get that. I think it really just depends on the list you're playing. Like a Soul Ring and Oswald is doing more, arguably, than a list that's Grixis or higher, because so far as like creatively speaking, I think that Soul Ring has more alternative options in a list that's dual color or monocolor that you wouldn't necessarily see from a list that's 3 or more colors. Barring maybe Dimir. Maybe Dimir is probably doing the same shenanigans. Or I would say like the lists that are running Underworld Breach, so maybe not Dimir.
Yeah,
I don't know.
if fast mana
Rakdos.
expand, like fast mana also doesn't inherently ruin anything, I would say, because creatively it just makes everything do what it does a little bit faster. Because it's like you skip because of fast mana, you skip like the first 2 turns to 3 turns of a regular EDH game, and that's primarily what fast mana does. And if you remove fast mana, the low CMC combos become insane, like Foracle, the Demonic Consultation.
Yeah, which Soul Ring isn't even like helping with.
Yeah.
Right, unless you're using one generic pip to go into Beseech the Mirror, and then one generic pip into your Tainted Pact.
Yeah.
There you go.
You get that 4 black from Dark Ritual into Cabal Ritual.
Or you're culling the weak. You bargain something else. You can't bargain your creatures anyways, right? Unless it's a token. Yeah, why not?
You bargain your Soul Ring. More value out of Soul Ring.
Exactly. Double the value. I got 2 generic. I bargained with it. So good. Do tap it first, though. I'm not sure you can bargain and tap it for mana at the same time. I think you'll just need to float the mana. I forget the order in which like
you're paying costs, so you can tap it to pay for the mana while sacking it for the bargain.
Is that true? Because I know there's some issues with sacrificing things if you're convoking them as well.
Yeah, but that's I'm not sure. I don't know the whole thing of convoking with that, but I know that you can at least
right. So like
tap for mana.
If I did, let me see here.
I think it's because with convoke the ordering is, tap for mana to pay for things, alternate add-ons, and then additional costs, something like that. I think that's how the like cost ordering stacks. I don't know that though. That's my assumption.
Right, if there's a judge in the audience, let us know. Because I forget, like, I was doing something with Hoarding Broodlord, and I think it wasn't, like, playable because of how Convoked worked, but I'll have to look it up. Insanity Merc says, the only time I don't play Soul Ring in a deck is if I don't have an extra Soul Ring. That's why Simic is the best. It's easy ramp and counterspell. That's interesting. Simic is the best dual color. I would say most played dual color legend is probably Kinnan. Is this a fact?
I think so. Kennen is one of the top, unless you're counting the partners.
Thrasios, yeah.
I think Timna is the most played two color.
Oh, for sure. But she herself would not be in the command zone by herself. That's
I know
for certain. For certain.
I will also say that that kind of brings up my point where fast mana just enables other lines to be good, and if you remove fast mana, green just becomes insane. When you remove fast mana, you get casual. And what is the one color setup that everyone complains about in casual? Simic.
Is it really is green really dominant in casual?
Yep, because you have elves, you have land ramp. Like the 2-mana ramp land effects are really, really good in casual. And the rocks
rampant growths and stuff like that.
Yeah, the rocks are debatably better, but having lands come into play thins out your deck and also gives you usually better colors and some synergies with land entering effects.
Mm-hmm.
So Simic is the Dimir of casual.
That's interesting. What's better, an arcane signet or like a one of those 2 CMC pull a land from your deck spells? Which is the best one? What can get a dual land from your deck? Can Rampant Growth get a dual land, or Kodama's Reach?
Is it Far Wander? 3 visits. 3 visits is probably the best because you grab a green land and something else, and just play untapped.
Right. So you have 3 visits. There's a few. I think there's a few cards that operate this way. Would you rather have 3 visits in hand or Arcane Signet in hand for your list?
Depends on the list. I personally would. I don't play a ton of green in casual, but I do play it. The decks I do play, I kind of like the land ramp a little bit better.
I just like that it doesn't add to the dockside count, honestly. Like that's kind of appealing. And you're right about the deck thinning and the synergy with lands at ETBing. I agree with all that.
It's also harder to remove.
Right. This is interesting.
And it won't get hit by like Collector Oof, Null Rod, anything like that, or just an accidental wipe. So, yeah, casual 3 visits is usually better than an Arcane Signet.
Well, I don't really have a green list right now, but I haven't really thought about these as if they were 2 CMC rocks. And the fact of the matter is, I don't run very many 2 CMC rocks anyways in any of my lists, outside of potentially Arcane Signet for color fixing in Rock Rack and Tevesh. But if I was in green, these don't feel bad, honestly. You're still up there with mana for interaction, and if you're in multiple colors, I'm actually confused as to why you don't see more of these effects. I guess ramp in this way doesn't have the same sex appeal as just paying 2 generic.
It's also the pip. The pip hurts some decks, because if you're running green, you don't always have the green mana, and that can hurt. If you want an interesting deck that is pretty good, you can play what's his name, like Aze or whatever, or Tatiova. Those are the ETB draw commanders.
I pulled the foil version of Tatiova, like this one. I don't know if I kept it though. One? Yeah, the Benthic Druid.
Yeah.
Right. She looks dope. I like this one a lot. I don't know if I kept it though. I need to look through my collection because I just did a massive trade-in, but I don't know if I was really interested in playing Tatiova extra turns. It looks fun, but I would rather do like Yuriko. Let me see here. So Tommaso says, we all know Rule 0 is a lie, and we could talk about that in a second. As we all know, the ban list should be adjusted. I think that we need no ban list, but some cards must have limitations. A point system like Canadian Highlander. Well, I guess, that's the argument, So you've got 2 levels of approach, right? You say Soul Ring's unfair, has an unfair advantage. Mana Crypt's unfair advantage. These people are going to get pointed out. So you can say one of 2 things. You can say Rule 0 it, which I think is the general phrase to throw out there when someone suggests that a card is too good or it needs to be looked at. Is it just Rule 0 it? The thing is, that is ostensibly only for your play group and will never be adhered at your LGS unless you own the local game store or the people you're playing with are all your pals and they all agree. Rule 0 is a lie. I agree with you. I don't think Rule 0 is an actual thing unless you're playing kitchen table, at which point do whatever the hell you want. Right? Yeah. And then the other thing, pointing at Canadian Highlander, I don't know anyone that plays Canadian Highlander, but you're absolutely right. I think it is a more balanced setup than Commander. But because Commander is officially sanctioned by WotC, it's obviously going to get more attention. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, from my opinion on Rule Zero at least, um, or at least for the whole ban list thing and Rule Zero being a lie, um, I think Rule Zero is only applicable if you have a consistent play group and you guys have like an actual night where you just talk it out for like 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only time when you can have a Rule Zero. Like you need your own uh community RC pretty much to
Right.
decide that. So it's like when you meet at like Tim's house. When you meet at Tim's house to play Magic, you all have like one night where you just kind of talk it out to say, this is banned, this is banned, this is banned, this is banned, and then you share that list of banned things with everybody, and then you all adhere to that playlist. And that can either be like a Canadian Highlander thing or just a straight up ban list. And honestly, I would like that more than our current ban list, because I personally feel that the only things that need to be banned in Commander are the format breakers and currently like the Power 9 things that are just very powerful cards that are very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And if the reserve list is ever removed, I'm fine with just banning the rule breakers or the format breakers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, like if Moxen were accessible, I don't think it would be an issue, but obviously people that had Moxen would have a clear advantage. I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen how effective like the fast mana we do roll with is. So people that are lacking, they're gonna get screwed, sadly. But yeah, I guess like I don't know. I just got to thinking about LED for no particular reason, but yeah, that card, thank God, it's not banned. I have a copy. I don't use it. Let's see here. The problem with banning Soul Ring, unless you ban all the fast mana, the play is inherently classist. Literally, it just means if you have money, you're allowed to have fast mana. Fast mana.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of true. Because if you look at outside of Soul Ring, I think the next cheapest is Mana Vault.
which is not that cheap.
Yep. I guess no, Springleaf Drum isn't fast mana, it's neutral.
It is
Um
neutral. Yeah.
yeah,
Wow,
it's
Manifold's
just
up there,
Manifold.
man. Manifold is up there. I'm so surprised that the 30th edition cards are expensive. Is it just because the set was expensive? Like $126 for a Manifold that's not legal is so weird to me.
Yeah.
But we're not going to look at that one. So you'd get like the third edition, or I guess Double Masters might be cheaper. They need to print more versions of Manifold. Let's just put that out there. Tommaso says Nature's Lore is as well, so far as 2CMC. Fun to think. Remember we talked about for a long time ago in a casual, in a stream, casual or not stream. I remember we talked about that a long time ago. Yeah, and we might have. Random question. Oh, sorry.
So some of the mocks might actually be uh less expensive. So sorry, the for I should say for everyone, for fast mana I'm considering anything that's permanent. So Lotus Petal and Jeweled Lotus aren't on the table. But Mox Amber is like $27-26. Mox Opal is way more expensive than Mana Vault. So Mox Amber is the most expensive or is the most inexpensive piece of fast mana outside of Mana Vault. And
Right.
if anyone says Mox Tantamite, I'm gonna ask Patrick to ban you from the chat. That is not fast mana. Somehow it's still like $6.
Mox Tantalite?
Yeah, the Mox Tantalite.
What's it used in?
Yidris?
I guess
That's it.
it's kind of cool. And let's see here. I'm just gonna go over a few more thoughts from the audience before we close this one out. Power 9, but Cradle still in. Expensive as fuck. Yeah, I wish I kept my guy's Cradle, but thank God green sucks. No, thank God I don't need it. I don't really use that many creatures. So you know what I do wish I have though? And I would have kept it. Sarah Sanctum. Sarah Sanctum is used really just for what am I trying to say? Enchantress list. But I really wish I got a copy before it went up, because I feel like I would get into that one day.
Yeah.
This was last FNM. Last FNM. Random question. My LGS gave out Lotus Petal to everyone that played. Was there a big event or did we just get lucky? Insanity Merc. Random question. I saw the Lotus Petals being handed out. I think it was for specifically like a bring a friend promo or something, or it was some sort of promotional that the
It was an FNM promotion, I think.
Okay, that was it. Yeah, I saw the copies though. They're really cool. There's probably imagery up on here now. But yes, Will answered some of those thoughts in prayers in the comments. Mox Tantalite, my beloved. Sarah's is an absolute staple in Light Paws. Wish I had a copy. But yeah, this is the oh god, it's not even on here. That's it right there. This is the copy you're referring to. It looks really cool. 30th anniversary misc promo. Same, I sold my Sanctum proxy. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And then it all boils down to proxies, I think, for majority of players. I don't mind proxies. Play with as many proxies as you want. Really, it helps. It just helps make this game more fun for more people.
Yeah. And the one issue, so the one issue that I have with just playing the Power 9 and everything in CDH, even though I am wholeheartedly a supporter of proxies and I love that, you can't play in tournaments with proxied cards, which is also why like banning the hyper expensive staple Power 9 things that everyone would run in every single deck if possible, they'd need to be banned just because they are way too expensive for the amount of people that do play CDH and the amount of decks that people would need to run them in. So I would want the Power 9 still banned until the reserve list was abolished, which that's going to take a while.
Yeah, my only issue, I honestly don't mind From the Vault, and I kind of wish they still did From the Vault, but specifically because From the Vault gave us Vulcan Baga's version of Mox Diamond, which is the version I own. I overpaid at the time. I'm so glad I made that investment. This is easily one of my favorite pieces of art. What sucks is that I know people really like the OG versions of the Moxen, but Vulcan Baga is probably one of my favorite artists, and he did like a whole spread of Moxen, like he did the Mox Opal, but like the Mox Jet, the Mox Emerald, Pearl, Ruby, Sapphire, they look so damn good in his art. So I would kill for like a From the Vault Mox kit. $30. Buy your Mox kit. How sick would that shit be? People would lose their mind. People would lose their minds if they did like a bundle like that. It's never gonna happen, but you know. Let's see here. I have to take it out when I play, yes, in tournaments. Honestly, Cradle should go before Soul Ring. That shit is format bending.
Cradle isn't even played right now.
I mean, I guess, do people play Cradle in a casual setting?
Not really. Most people I've seen that play casual do play with some kind of budget. If you're playing high power, you play Cradle, but a lot of people don't like playing high power from my experience. They prefer doing like kitchen table fun stuff with friends, and most of those decks only cost like 100-ish bucks, like 100, 200.
That's the thing with Commander in general, though. Like, the issue with this format is the variance in power levels. Like, I don't care how you care to label decks, and I think it's kind of foolish to even go about labeling on a scale of 1 to 10. I never understood it when people would come at me in conversation and be like, hey, so what level is your deck? Like, what would you say before we sit down? Because like your grading scale and my grading scale, it's all going to be a matter of opinion. And I don't care what voices in the community have told you what about power levels or tiers. No one adheres to the same system. Like, there's a handful of people that watch this program. There's a handful of people that watch every other program. No one adheres to the same leveling system. It's like moot. It doesn't matter. So because of the amount of variance in this game, I don't, if you think your list is competent enough to play competitively, you can sit at my table. If you know that your list is like has removed all the core tutors, all the fast mana for a more casual experience, that's what you're doing. But I don't, those two players shouldn't mingle. The rest of us, whatever. It's so weird. Like, I hate the idea of power levels.
Unban Jack in the Mox. It should be legal.
What? I've never actually read this.
It's just tap. It's 0 mana. Tap it, roll a d6, and then make a mana of whatever type it
Ooh.
rolls into. If you roll a 1, sack it, take 5.
Should we snap up our copies now?
I'm waiting for so many die roll effects to be unsilvered because they're legal now, or they should be legal now. I don't get it.
Ooh, what is it? What symbol? Doesn't this symbol mean it is legal? No.
Uh, no. It's silver border. If it's silver border, it's not legal. But if it's black border without the acorn, then it's legal.
Gotcha. All right, I think I'm ready to close this one out with you guys. Thanks for joining us for this Untapped TCG podcast. We covered our main talking points again. I'll put timestamps in all of this, but should you run Soul Ring? Yeah, you should just run Soul Ring. I think. Yeah, I think there is an argument against it, but not enough to warrant all of the stress. Play Soul Ring. You should probably put it in majority of your list, unless you have a very good reason not to. But yeah, I'm excited to cover the rest of Ixalan with you guys. I believe that from an MTG ambassador perspective, we'll be covering Doctor Who, I believe, before we visit or return to Ixalan. So do anticipate that. We've got a lot of Who coverage for you. It is coming by way of that set in total is it's all just Commander precons, if I'm not mistaken. There is no box collection, anything like that. So provided you have a favorite Who character, a favorite Doctor, those are probably the precons you'll buy. But we'll go over each single from each set that you should consider picking up. So if you're just getting into singles like we typically do, I can encourage you to use the TCG Player affiliate link, but they need to work their shit out still. Even still, use it. We'll see what happens. Maybe they'll send a check eventually. They haven't in a long time. Maybe you can reach out to them and say, hey, help support the people that support you. That would be really great. I would appreciate that. But yeah, if you guys want to follow our other social media, I encourage you to visit the link tree in there. There's also ways to tip this channel. If you enjoy the content, you can do that. It's not encouraged, but if you want to help, go for it. We'll still be doing this anyway. Expect to see more FNMs in the future, again, with audience participation. So if you want to join and you feel like your deck is of caliber, let's play. I don't care what you're playing. I'm sure that you'll make it work. I'm sure that we'll make it work. And mostly the FNM experience is about having fun and socializing. So don't worry about winning. That's not a primary concern. But yeah, join us next week. I don't know what the talking points are yet, but if there's any more spoils from Ixalan, we can take time to talk about them. I think we're going to gamify one of our topics, though. So get ready for that. If you enjoy the tier list videos we do, we'll have like a little mini tier list game that you can play with us. So, Will, any closing thoughts?
Well, you stole my TCG player line that I usually end with, so not really.
Yeah, it's just my qualm with that is that I've reached out to their camp and they still TCG Player hasn't paid me for any of the sales for like the last 4 or 5 months. It's crazy. It's a rather insignificant amount, but I know a lot of you do actually use it, and there is a system to track the people that hit the link in the description, and a lot of you people still do. You people. So
people.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about, but they need to fix that. They definitely need to fix that. So I'll be reaching out to them. But otherwise, Card Kingdom, I'm open. We're open. Feel free. Let us know if you want us to be an affiliate. But yeah, if you guys are in Vegas enjoying MagicCon, I just want to say, let me know how your experience was before we close this one out. I'm curious. I wish I could have attended, but sadly I can't. All right. Bye. I'm going to let this last a little bit longer. So if you guys have any thoughts or questions, you can ask them. Yeah, I was contemplating just chilling for a second and looking over sorcery cards. You don't have to join me for this, Will.
I need to look up sorcery stuff because I am interested in it. It seems interesting, but I'll probably hop on YouTube and then watch someone explain, like, here's how to play sorcery, and then check it out.
Don't worry, Becca Scott's got you covered. I want Becca Scott's job. I am so envious. She gets all of the things that I would want to do as a voiceover talent. I'm not a voiceover talent, but as someone who can narrate a script copy. She does everything I want to do. I'm so jealous because she did a how-to for sorcery. They probably paid her, or is this part of Good Times? I have no idea how this worked out, but she does a great job of illustrating how the game is played. I learned through example through some through some friends at a local comic book store. But yeah,
Neat.
you should look it up. It's called Sorcery TCG. It's Sorcery Contested Realms, but the site is sorcerytcg.com. But I'm going to be playing this hopefully Sunday. I highly encourage you guys to check out this game. I would love to get gameplay of this game. I'll try to figure out a way to make that happen because I think everyone should know about this game and play this game. It is so damn good. I enjoyed my experience with this so much. It's a little difficult to play virtually though, so don't expect that. But yeah, I'll probably look over this in a second. Check out Sorcery. You specifically will. I need to encourage another player to get on board, just for theory crafting purposes, because there's so much variance with decks and like there's so much you can do with it.
I'm the guy who will brew everything.
Yeah, I know, dude. You would have such a fun time. I don't know. Have you ever played any tabletop games where there's like there's motion involved? A couple?
Yeah, I've played a couple because one of my favorite games is Santorini, which is kind of like Connect Four and chess.
Okay, so this is like chess, I guess, in a sense. I kind of likened it to Hive, if you've ever played Hive, which is
Not.
it's you have these hexagonal tokens, and you have the same tokens. Your opponent, black set of tokens, white set of tokens, and there are just a series of different bugs in Hive, and each bug is represented by a symbol. They have their own special effects as they're played. Basically, there's only a handful of rules in Hive. You can't break the Hive at any point by playing tokens or moving tokens, but they all have their own effects. So sorcery is like that, except you're laying down sites, and then you're playing cards into sites and or casting spells. And there's a variety of other things. There's like artifacts and stuff you can play. It's so good though, dude. Yeah, I'll just send you a link to this and you can watch how it's played. But yeah, right. Today I'm just going to spend a few hours figuring out what I want to play tomorrow because I want to play more. Yesterday, the other time I went, I just played a couple of precons. The experience was so fun. But let me go ahead and send. Oh, God, Will's face is going to get smushed. Sorry, guys.
I know.
If you're still watching, there's 12 people apparently still watching. Thanks if you're still here. We usually just let these drag on so I can make sure it's officially ended, but I'll end it now. See you guys. See ya.